then the exhibits in their respective evidence bags, sealed, duly sealed and marked, would have then been entered into the SAP 13 at Isipingo.
Indeed, Commissioners.
And now we know it didn't happen here, at least if this SAP 13 is to be believed.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Then on the same document, if you go over leaf, there are some entries made there. I just want you to explain to me. I read the first column under 4 as the member who booked these exhibits at Sipingo and references the CHC container at 14 Avenue East. That's the Durban Harbour, correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And it is duly signed for. What I'm interested in is the 5th column, the entry in the 5th column. You recall we're having a conversation on regarding the book in, book out process. That requires a registration in the first police station, SAP 13, and immediately booked out to another police station where an SAP 13 would be completed. I'm correct? That is the general process.
That's correct, Commissioners.
And now we have dealt with the issue of the transfer documents to take account of that movement from the one police station to another police station. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Now, yesterday you referenced book in, book out. Must that strictly be from police station to police station, or can it be booked out for other purposes?
The exhibits can obviously and must be booked out to be submitted to the Forensic Science Laboratory, Commissioners. So that is also a legitimate reason.
Okay. And if we then look at column 5, the entry there, the second one, I think the book sort of reads across. Highlighted in green and yellow. That is the continuation of the entry regarding these exhibits, you confirm?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Now, if I am reading this properly at column 5, it reads, items taken for analysis and given the date 2021-06-2022. I read that to be the book out process that you spoke of after the book in.
That's correct, Commissioners. That's what column 5 is created for.
And I see that happened, it confirms it happened on the 22nd of June 2021, which is the same day as the date of seizure.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It reflects, obviously, taken for analysis.
I'm interested in the date for the moment, General.
Yes, that's the date of the seizure.
Now, my challenge is, we know after the book out, they went to Port Shepstone DPCI offices. This is the reason provided here is items taken for analysis. Was analysis to be done at the Port Shepstone DPCI offices, or am I misreading what's here?
Commissioners, perhaps just two things that I need to comment on. First and foremost, this entry by one of the detectives that was part of the search and seizure operation referred to in column 5 was supposed to be in column 6, not in column 5. Column 5 is for the station commander or the SAP 13 clerk to acknowledge receipt of the exhibits. That's the first aspect. The second aspect is that clearly this entry is a false entry because the exhibits was never taken for analysis on that date. It's completely misleading because the exhibits went from Isipingo to Port Shepstone and it was never submitted for analysis as depicted here.
not on that date and not ever.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Thank you, General. Let's then turn to the second document that was distributed today. That will be CJC 194 for the record. If you could briefly inform the commissioners what this document is.
Commissioners, the second document on the top right-hand corner reflects as A3 is a copy of the SAP 13 register of Port Shepstone SAPS, the police station.
And I think earlier you had indicated, and I think that the document bears you out, that these entries were made 2 days after the seizure and after the cargo had been locked up at the Port Shepstone offices. Did I understand you correctly?
That's correct, Commissioners. According to the document, column 1, it's reflected there 2021-06-24, and the reference number at Port Shepstone was 883 for that specific calendar year.
Who would bear responsibility for these entries in this document?
Commissioners, the exhibits was entered by Warrant Officer Mpangase.
Should the SAP entry not be countersigned by the exhibit official, the official who is responsible for the exhibits at the police station?
Commissioners, if we can perhaps go to the last page
Yes.
of this exhibit. In column 4 under paragraph 4.5, it indicates the signature of Community Service Center member who receives exhibits or the property. And there is a different signature affixed to that column under 4.5 after Warrant Officer Mpangase entered the exhibits into the register.
Indeed. So I'm saying it is that signature, whoever it belongs to, is that person who then becomes the exhibit official and is responsible for these exhibits from that point.
That's correct, Commissioners, but here we have to also take into consideration, again, paragraph 6.1, where Warrant Officer Mpangase, again on the 24th, booked out the exhibits.
Apologies, General, you are ahead of us. We will get to that point. Okay. You recall that we dealt with, in terms of the instruction notes, the transferring station and the receiving station requirements and the transfer documents. Now, you explained that when they are registered in the receiving police station, that police station takes responsibility for the exhibits, and they are entered into that police station's SAP 13. And this is what this document purports to be the Port Shepstone Police Station SAP 13. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And my question, therefore, is if the commissioners were to go to Port Shepstone Police Station to establish who was the official responsible for receiving these exhibits, there has to be somebody identifiable to say, I received them and I signed the SAP 13 form. Am I correct? Is my understanding
That's correct. That's how it's supposed to be working.
Now, from the document before us, are we able to determine who the receiving official at the Port Shepstone Police Station was?
I cannot identify from this document, Commissioners.
And as you rightly say, at the end of that document, just under 4.5, is a signature with no name, no, is it a person, a member number, no date?
No rank.
No rank. Do you have any comments to what we are confronted with?
Well, Commissioners, from a reading of the document, it's clear that this was just an entry into the register at this police station to have a reference number for the exhibits that's been kept at Port Shepstone. According to my knowledge, the actual exhibits was not taken out of the walk-in safe at the unit, taken to Port Shepstone, booked in there, booked out, and taken back again. This is just a paper exercise that was performed here. And that is why Warrant Officer Mpangase immediately again, or directly after he entered it here, on the same date, made the entry, apparently he made the entry under paragraph 6, that the exhibits is taken for investigation.
Taken from the Port Shepstone police station in 6.1.
Yes, it reflects items 3.1 to 3.31 taken for investigation. Obviously then from the police station, because the entry is made at Port Shepstone police station. So it's incorrect, it's a false entry.
We will get to you say it's Warrant Officer Mpangase's entries under 6.1. I'm still interested in what was happening to record these exhibits as received by Port Shepstone Police Station. As you sit there in the position that you are in, must somebody be held accountable for this entry besides Warrant Officer Mpangase, who at least signs here as the person handing them in? Must the purported receiving person be held responsible and answerable to what exactly was happening here?
Commissioners, it's a difficult question. I believe that if that individual can be identified, it will be prudent to perhaps get a version from that official in terms of what transpired here before I can comment on whether that person needs to be held responsible. I do not know what transpired there.
I'll put it differently. Somebody purported to have received these. You testified earlier that you know that they never left the DPCI offices in Port Shepstone. Is that a concern to you that you are confronted with an entry such as this in circumstances where somebody in Port Shepstone Police Station purports to be receiving something that never left the DPCI offices in the first place?
Indeed, Commissioners, because it is a misrepresentation.
Now, that person, would I be correct to conclude that based on what is written here, this person confirms that these exhibits were in fact cocaine? You remember when they left Isipingo, they are noted as suspected to be cocaine. The receiving, if we go to the first document, the Isipingo SAP 13, says 541 by 1 kg brick containing powder suspected to be cocaine. You confirm that, right?
That's correct, Commissioner.
And we know overleaf in that the entry was that these were taken for analysis.
That's
and
correct.
You testified that, to your knowledge, no analysis was conducted.
That's correct, Commissioners.
2 days later now, Port Shepstone Police Station accepts them as bricks of powder. Also, my apologies, it still says suspected to be cocaine. I misread that. My question is there any evidence, objective, that the exhibits entered into Isipingo SAP 13 are the same that are now registered here at the Port Shepstone Police Station? Is there any independent evidence that the Commission can turn to? I think you said that Isipingo is about more than 100 kilometers from Port Shepstone.
Port Shepstone, that's correct, Commissioner.
So what must we look to satisfy ourselves that what was taken, what was registered as Isipingo is indeed what is now registered at Port Shepstone Police Station?
There's no independent corroboration to come to the conclusion that what was entered in Isipingo is now entered at Port Shepstone, Commissioners.
Now, are you in a position to express an opinion as now regards the conduct of Warrant Officer Mpangase, who, as you indicated under column 6, states that these items were taken for investigation? Do you have a view to express on that?
Commissioner, even that is a misrepresentation. If it was booked out for investigation, there was no investigation to be done on the exhibits except for the work to be done by FSL. So it was supposed to read, taken then for submission to FSL. That's what I would have suspected. Not for investigation, because as a detective at organized crime, the warrant unfortunately cannot determine whether it's cocaine or not. So that's a misrepresentation.
I'm sure you meant expected and not suspected.
Expected.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, General. In both the two SAP 13s, the exhibits are said to relate to DPCI Inquiry 28/06/2021. I think yesterday you touched on, an inquiry number versus a CAS number. And if I understood you correctly, for all intents and purposes, they're about the same. It's a registered inquiry.
That's correct, Commissioners.
And this inquiry is registered at the DPCI, by the DPCI.
That's correct, Commissioners.
I would take it then, once registered and investigations start, investigations start, a file is created. I won't call it a docket, being an inquiry. A file is created that is then populated with whatever the investigations are able to yield. Is that a correct assumption on my part?
Yeah, that's correct, Commissioners. What basically happens is that the inquiry gets registered. Then the person that opened it will obviously affix either a statement or a document to the A part of the inquiry, make an entry into the SAP-5, which is the investigation diary, in the C clip of the inquiry, and then submit that inquiry immediately to an officer for and we refer to it as a 24-hour inspection, and then the inquiry is booked out to an investigating officer.
And from the same documents, they are all in manuscript headed Port Shepstone CAS 129/11/2021. But that is the post-burglary or post-theft of the exhibit. That's a different CAS number, correct?
Yes, that is all the evidence that was gathered subsequent to the burglary and theft that's contained in the Port Shepstone docket, Commissioners.
I ask this because we haven't come across a file containing any documentation of the type you describe, or speaking to progress of investigations under that inquiry. Do you have a copy of that file? And this is prior to the theft of the drugs at Port Shepstone DPCI offices.
The investigating officer is having the original inquiry that was registered, Commissioners.
To your knowledge, are there any documents in that inquiry file predating the day of the theft?
Commissioners,
to your recollection, if you can comment.
I do not have detail of what was contained in the inquiry file.
Okay. And you say the investigating officer would be able to shed light on that?
Indeed, Commissioners.
I'm happy to leave it at that. Now, I think we can then pick up from where you left off at your statement.
Maybe before.
Yes, Commissioner.
General, this CJC 194, just to understand it, at the very last page, the entry there, it's the very last column on the extreme right. I think at the top it says page 56, if you're where I am.
That's correct, Commissioner, I observe it.
So you've got that 6.1 entry there by Warrant Officer Bangase, and then it says items 3.1 rather, to 3.31 taken for investigation. Am I correct to understand it to mean that he conveys that he took the whole consignment out for investigation? Is that a correct understanding?
You are correct, Commissioner. If you, for instance, look at the previous pages, the list of exhibits booked in by Warrant Officer Pangase was from 3.1 until 320.
Yeah.
Just see the pages up to 331.
Yes. Okay, so he's,
So it
he's
means that
representing that he took everything. for
Everything. That's
investigation.
correct, Commissioner.
All right. And then still in that column, but the typewriting above where you've got those paragraph numbers, 6.4 above where you've got the typing, it says signature of deliverer. Now, if you look at the handwritten 6.4, it's a scribble, and I think Mr. Law was saying we can't tell who that is. Who is a receiver where it says signature of deliverer? What is contemplated there?
The deliverer obviously will be, and on face value it seems to be the same person that signed on a 4.5, will be then the Community Service Center commander in all probability, if it was not the SAP 13 clerk that affixed his or her signature to both columns.
So they are a deliverer because what? They are the ones that hand over the
And handing out the exhibits again,
to
Commissioner.
Mpangase if things were done properly. Ordinarily, he would be handing over.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Okay, all right. And then lastly, in CJC 193, the smaller exhibit, the second page, and you touched on this, where Warrant Officer Mpangase gives the reason why the items are being taken out of Isipingo, and he says items taken for analysis. Is it a correct understanding for me to understand this to mean these, as far as this is concerned, this document, these exhibits remained under the control of Isipingo? They were just taken out for analysis.
No.
They were not being transferred to another police station.
No, it does not remain under the custodianship or command of the Pingo Station commander. Mpangase assumed full responsibility for the exhibits when he booked it out.
Okay, maybe let me ask it differently. So let's say